Let's turn to this now. Going back to one of our top stories. Scopa earlier on grilled the Eskom board members on corruption allegations made by the former group CEO André de Ruyter. The utilities board chairperson told the public accounts watchdog that an independent panel will soon be established to look into the claims. For more on this, we're joined now by Advocate Stefanie Fick, an executive director at the organization Undoing Tax Abuse. It's been an interesting 2 days, Advocate. Good to have you. First, we saw the security apparatus seemingly also not clear on what exactly they knew around this particular intelligence report. I mean, at this point, we're not even sure if it is an intelligence product at all, because they themselves don't seem to be giving it any degree of credibility. But we today heard from the chairperson of Eskom as well to say, well, we would not have kept André de Ruyter on board just because we were to confirm the veracity of the claims that he made. But looking at all that, I mean, do you think the former board, the current board, somebody is sleeping at the wheel and not doing what they're supposed to be doing?
Good evening, Tabo. Yeah, interesting indeed. And I think at this point in time, I actually want to ask or state that, does it really matter who's asleep at the wheel? Because at the end of the day, it appears, there's pointing fingers and everybody's blaming everybody and trying to see, not taking the blame for the fact that what we are seeing is that there is no proper investigation. At the end of the day, the problem that is Eskom is not being resolved. And while the big wigs are pointing fingers and talking about secret investigations, you know what? The ordinary person on the street is bearing the brunt. Eskom really requires ethical leadership, a cleanup, proper investigation so that we can hold to account the people responsible for corruption. I think we also need, intelligence in order to understand the landscape. And, talking about this today, I think the problems in Eskom is so part of the system that you would really need some specialist investigation in order to unravel everything, and then bring it to an end, so that we can fix Eskom.
So I saw one publication, in fact, listening to one of the investigators saying, it seems, I mean, just from today's presentation by the board and the presentation yesterday by the security cluster, that the parties seemingly have taken a particular political position, so to speak, if you want to put it that way, in how they are going to deal with this matter. I mean, the Hawks telling us straight up in our faces that they are not investigating any political player at this particular point. The board today was asked, do they think it's important that a political player be investigated? Doesn't seem like it's something that they are also prioritizing. Are they, would you say, in direction of duty here if they are not going to pursue this particular matter?
Yes. You know what? It doesn't help to go and look for whether there's political interference. I think we know that there's political interference. Since 1998, Eskom knew, or Eskom told government that, listen, we're going to run out of electricity. We need to make a plan. And I think the only plan we made was Medupi and Kusile, and we all know that is, there's a huge amount of corruption, and they're still not, to the full extent on the grid. So here we sit. We literally do not have enough energy or electricity for everybody. And then you're talking about renewables, for example, in the Northern Cape. We do not have the infrastructure to even deal with the extra electricity. So, government has been asleep at the wheel. But isn't that political interference? So then you ask the question, is there political will to fix all of this? Because to what extent have we moved forward in order to resolve this problem? We hear about sabotage. We hear about, the whole coal problem. And it needs to be investigated, I agree. But I think it needs to be at a pace a bit faster than what we are doing now. Parliament is talking about it, and kudos to Scopa for actually, grilling into the detail. But at the end, we should stop talking about it and start doing. I think government, and that includes NPA, the Hawks, the police, they have to start showing us that we can trust them again. Because I think there's such a huge trust deficit at the moment that, sometimes I want to say I don't think we believe anything anybody is telling us because we can see the effects. And it is, and in terms of political interference, I mean, we've laid charges against previous ministers who hasn't been investigated. So where is the problem? And I really think that, from an operations level, strategic level, people need to bury their egos and we need to fix the problem.
Where is the problem? I mean, as you mentioned it from a strategic level, a simple, straightforward question was asked. What is Eskom doing to bring in new capacity? Right. The answer was, well, there is nothing new as far as generation is concerned. We are pretty much looking, as you put it, at renewables to come on board. But 15 years later, Eskom is still telling us on the consumption side, well, make sure you change your globes and you switch off the lights in the rooms that you're not going to be in. How much trouble are we in here?
You know what, Tabu, and can I just, sort of go in a different direction? We complain about load shedding. I mean, today, again, it was, I feel so sorry for people that need to get children to school and babies bath and all of that with the 4 hours. But there are communities that do not have electricity. So we really are facing a big problem. And we need action. I think one of the most important things that we need to keep in mind is the 2024 elections. The divide is huge. And, the Eskom problem is unfortunately big, but I refuse to believe that we cannot resolve it. Now, load shedding is going to be with us for a while. I think if you look at Eskom's plans and the clever people that comes together and think about solutions, that load shedding will be here for a while, but it is important that, the short-term, medium and long-term plans are implemented as a matter of urgency, and that we shouldn't have, ministers having, a fight with one another. It's as if they're really fighting about control and power. The fact that we are now appealing a ruling of in a court of law, that all the court wanted is to say, government, it is basically, your fault that hospitals, schools, police stations do not have electricity. Now, if you cannot load shed them, please make sure that they have alternative electricity available. And, the first reaction is let's run to court. It is not about, yes, we have a problem. Doesn't matter whose fault it is at this point in time. Let's resolve it because it's in the best interest of communities, of basic human rights. So, but I think the answer lies in communities. I think communities are there. They want to help. And it's a question why government is not listening. And unfortunately, we were dealt these cards, is that the first thing that comes to mind is, but then some people are not getting the contracts and, the money in the pocket, the corruption. So we need to eradicate corruption.
What has been disconcerting for me, and my jaw dropped when I saw this now recently, I mean, it's been confirmed. The Minister of Electricity has got no power. He's said so himself. Says the power lies somewhere. All I'm doing is coordinating that power to act. Is it not time for South Africans to maybe say, President, scrap this minister? Because clearly you are not prepared to give him power. Because it also doesn't make sense why it's taken so long for a president to make a decision on what power this minister is to have.
Yeah, it's scary. And you know what? if this, if the minister is really going to resolve the problems, then one needs to say positive, I assume. But he doesn't have any power. There's already this, pulling in different directions between Minister Gordhan and Minister Mantashe. And now you put a third person in this mix, and still, we are still struggling. And the minister, I have to say this, is costing the fiscus an enormous amount of money. And we still see we are without load shedding. Now, I think, Tabo, I think we will agree that, sorting out this mess is not going to be easy. It's not impossible, but it's not going to be easy. We can chat here and talk about it, but at the end of the day, it's a big mountain to climb. But, the sooner we start climbing it, the sooner we have the will to actually get more renewals. Let's not get stuck in, we've been stuck in this whole debate about should we get the power plant, should that continue, coal, despite the fact that we made promises that, cleaner energy, and we get stuck in the whole nuclear debate. Now, I don't know enough to get involved in the debate which one is better. All I can say is that, if one uses the current situation in South Africa, I think it makes sense to look at something like solar and renewables. But the sooner we start looking at it, the sooner we can get it on the grid. And you know what? Can I just say this? They weren't even, the old and the new board didn't even agree on what really happened. The previous acting chairperson said he knew about all of this. The new board said they didn't know anything about this. The previous acting chairperson said, we knew about this. The Hawks didn't want to do anything, so there had to be this private investigation. Then the board said, no, we didn't know about it. Now, if we're on that level, are not even talking to one another, if the one minister doesn't know what the other minister is doing, then we're not going to resolve this problem. And like I said, it is ordinary South Africa, businesses, small businesses, that's bearing the brunt.
Outer Executive Director for Accountability, Advocate Stefanie Fick, appreciate your time. Thanks so much for coming on. Meanwhile, the rest of South Africa remains on indefinite stage 6 load shedding.